The Wagering Zone coming to you live from the Mile High City right here in Denver, Colorado. Welcome to the show. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening, whatever time zone you happen to be in. We're broadcasting on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as most of your major podcast platforms as well, such as Apple and Spotify and things like that. So we're easy to get a hold of. There's no problem there. We're here every day, Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. And of course, on Saturdays and Sundays, you can find us at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So that's the story for today. Anyway, we got 3 baseball games that we're going to take a very close look at once again to give you an idea as to what the line movement is like and in which direction the pros are going. Those 3 games are Houston against Seattle, the Yankees against the Angels, and the Red Sox against the Rays. We're also going to be giving you some little information on NCAA, the college football program is going to be starting up. So we're going to give you some more tips and ideas on how to handicap the early part of the season, because, there was no season last year for some of these teams. Some of these teams did not play at all last year, and now they're coming in. So there's nothing to go off of. All you have to do is have in your information as far as what the team is who's carried over, if they got any new players and things of that nature. So it's not going to be a very easy situation, but of course there are various analytical strategies that are available, and of course we'll be looking into those as well. So anyway, and one other thing, there's a very interesting question I received in email. I get a lot of interesting questions, but this one is kind of complicated, so I'm going to answer it on the air, and it's going to be all about how the lines are developed. James in New York is one of my loyal listeners up there in New York. Thank you very much for your email, James. I'm going to go into what you asked about. I'll see if I can answer your questions to the best of my ability. And of course, that'll be part of the show today as well. So let's start off as we always do. Let's take a look and see what direction the various lines are going to be moving. But before that, let's see what happened yesterday as far as wagering was concerned in Major League Baseball. The favorites and the dogs, they split yesterday. 14 games, 7-7. The biggest upsets, huge upset, the Orioles against the Jays. They were a plus 255 on the money line, and the Angels were a plus 171 against the Yankees. So after having that big rise 13-game winning streak, now looks like they're kind of going in reverse, going the other way. The favorites finished the month of August very well. 65.7% of the favorites came in the month of August. Absolutely phenomenal. Now, for the whole season, it's almost at 60%. So August was a great month if you were betting on favorites. The whole season so far hasn't been all that bad either, unless you kind of got in the beginning of April, because I know April was dog heaven. If you remember back then, the dogs were coming in loud and clear. The unders are 8-6, and they increased their lead to 50.3%. So that's the only major sport that's going on. But also I want to bring you up to date as to the little system, method, whatever you want to call it, that we do in following the pros and which direction they are going. So now that the month of August has completed, okay, just to give you an idea, yesterday we had 3 plays. One of the plays, the Cardinals and the Reds, that game was postponed. In the Cubs-Twins game, the pros had the Twins. That was a loser. In the Pittsburgh White Sox game, they had the White Sox. That was a winner. So yesterday we had 2 plays, 1 winner, 1 loser. The day before that, we had 3 plays. We had 3 winners. The day before that, we had 3 plays, 2 winners, 1 loser. The day before that, we had 1 winner and 2 losers. So kind of give you an idea as to how the situation has been going. So as far as the month of August is concerned, if you would have played teams that we talked about, okay, the ones that have been chosen by the pros to bet on, you would have had 78 plays in this month. Out of those 78 plays, 47 came in, which is 60%. Not a bad number for a baseball season in an entire month of good play. So that'll give you an idea. And as far as the system, right from the beginning, it's now at 54% as well. So we're going to be going into September. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll kind of give you an idea as to what's going on. And of course, as we get into September, we won't be able to be spending as much time talking about baseball as we have been. In fact, we want to continue on with the line movements as far as baseball is concerned. But for you guys out there that listen to the show primarily to find out which direction the pros are going, we're still going to give you that information. But I'm not going to go into all the detail that I normally would be. Today, I still have some time, so I will do it. But as of starting tomorrow, I think from tomorrow on for a while, we're just going to tell you who the teams are. That's no problem there, but not with all the detail of all the pitching, the records, and things of that nature, primarily because we need more time to talk about college football and also NFL football. There's going to be information coming out left and right almost every day about something that's going to be happening or something that did happen. Of course, some of it, most of it, let me put it this way, may not even pertain to what we're interested in. But there are some nuggets of information in there that could be of some help. We don't want to miss that. We want to bring that to your attention. So we need that time to do that. So again, we'll continue on letting you know which direction the line movement is and how the pros are going. But as far as the detail, well, how we came up with those numbers or how they came up with those numbers, we're not going to go into all that detail in the near future until we get a little break. But, you know what's going to be like. Every time you listen to a sports talk show now, you're going to be hearing about college football, their picks and things of that nature, the different conferences, which team's going to win which conference. And also then you're going to get into the NFL. You're going to be talking about their conferences. Like yesterday, we talked about the NFL and the NFC and AFC. On the East, we talked about that. So we'll be soon coming up data on the South. We're going to be coming up on the West, So that's going to be most important in that direction. So we'll keep you up to date as to what the games are in baseball, the teams that are being selected. But again, we're just not going to go into all the detail about how those numbers came about. So let's take a break. And like we always say, if you've listened to the show before, we take 3 breaks within the show. And this is the first one. And every one is of 1 minute duration. So we'll be back looking at those 3 games on tap for today. And then we'll see if we can answer Jimmy's question the way we possibly can. So we'll be back in 1 minute. And welcome back. Here we go. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live right here from the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. Yes, we are. So thank you very much for listening. We're coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as podcasting on most of your major podcasts, again, such as Apple, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, you name it. You can find us just about anywhere. And also, if you want to get in touch with us, it's very simple. Just send an email. Send it to thesportswageringzone@gmail.com. You have any questions? You have any comments? Like I said, if we get done with this baseball situation with the 3 games, we're going to try to answer James' question. I'll talk all about it, give you an idea what it's all about. It all has to do with how the pros, how the sports books, they come up with their numbers, and amazingly how accurate they seem to appear. So anyway, that's going to be something coming up in the very near future, right after this. But in the meantime, we want to take some time and take a look at 3 games that are on tap for today. First of all, around 4 o'clock this afternoon, Houston Astros and the Seattle Mariners. The Astros are 78-54. The Mariners are at 71-62. Now, these are American League Western teams. They split the first 2 games of this series. Houston won the first one 4-3. They were a -150 road favorite. And then the Mariners came back with a 4-0 win yesterday as a +145 home dog. Now, in this afternoon's rubber match, Houston comes back with their veteran right-hander, Jake Odorizzi. He's 6-6 actually, with a 4.46 ERA. Seattle comes with their right-hander, Logan Gilbert. He's 5-5 with a 5.44 ERA. As we look at the line in this game, it opened with the Astros, a -125 road favorite on the money line. The Mariners +115 as a home dog. Now, the pros like Houston to win and really take the series. They steamed the Astros up from -125 up to -140 on the line. The Astros have dominated their division so far this season. They're at 68.5% against American League Western opponents. Now, Houston is 9-6 against Seattle. Houston's going to rely on their hitting once again. The Astros are hitting at .268 as a team, which ranks them as the #1 team in baseball, the best hitting team in baseball. Seattle's hitting at .223, drops them down to almost 30th overall. So the pro money is in here, and it's on the Houston Astros. They did beef it up a little bit, went up from -125 up to -140. That's really not a bad juice to pay, especially with a team that is doing as well as they are. Now, respected money, the pro money, has also come in on the under in this game. They forced the odds makers to drop the total from 9 to 8.5. Which kind of goes back to what we're going to be talking about in the very near next few minutes or so, or into the next segment of the show, actually, is how these numbers seem to come out. How do they happen? Why do they do it? We'll try to explain some of that to you as well. So in this game around 4 o'clock, the Astros against the Mariners. Pros are on the Houston Astros. At 7 o'clock, you got the New York Yankees, 76-56. They're up against the Angels, who are 66-67. Now, the Angels stole the first 2 games. They won the opener 8-7, +170 as home dogs. And then they won again yesterday, 6-4, as +175 home dogs. So the slumping Yankees, and that's what they've been doing lately, have now lost 4 straight games. So in tonight's final game, the Yankees turned their ace. Gerrit Cole, why not? He's 13-6, 2.8 ERA. And the Astros went with their left-hander, Packy Naughton. Has no record so far with a 1.69 ERA. Now, the line opened with the Yankees listed as a -245 road favorite, and Los Angeles as a +220 home dog. Now, the pros, they're not afraid of this big chalk. Chalk doesn't bother them. And like the Yankees, and they do like the Yankees, to avoid the sweep with their ace on the hill. So they streamed up the numbers from 245 up to 260. Now, keep one thing in mind. Non-division favorites receiving 10 cents of steam or more, they're at over 60% this season. The big favorites, those that are at minus 200 or more, are at almost 72% as a win percentage so far this season. So, in a way, you have that going for you if you're going in that direction. The Yankees are 61 and 43 as a favorite. The Angels as a dog, they're only 30 and 39. Now, New York is plus 49 in run differential, while Los Angeles is in the minus column, minus 61. Now, the over is 2-0 so far in this series. Today's total is 8.5. Some books are juicing up the over to minus 115. The forecast out in Los Angeles calls for temperatures in the mid 70s, 10-mile-per-hour winds blowing out to center field, which looks like great, ideal hitting conditions. That's why it's at 8.5, and they're juicing it up because they're probably going to move it up to 9 before long. So in this game between the Yankees and the Angels, the pros think the Yankees are going to come back. They're not going to lose 3 in a row. They're going to beat the Angels. They got their ace pitcher going, so everything seems to be pointing in that direction. They're big favorites over 200, so the analytics are in their favor as well. And as far as the total goes, we're looking at 8.5. If you don't get in soon, it may go as high as 9 because they've already juiced it up over minus 115. So that's that game for tonight at 7:07. Also around 7 o'clock, you have the Boston Red Sox, who are 75 and 59, down in Tampa playing the Rays, 84 and 48. Now, the Rays are 2-0 so far in this series. They won the opener 6-1. They were minus 140 home favorites, and they won again yesterday 8-5 as minus 155 home favorites. Now, Boston has now lost 3 straight games, while Tampa has now won 9 straight games, okay? Now, in tonight's rematch, the Red Sox come in with their ace lefty, Chris Sale. He's undefeated, 3-0, 2.35 ERA. And the Rays come back with their right-hander, Drew Rasmussen. He's 1-0 with a 3.09 ERA. As we look at the line, it opened with Boston being the minus 140 road favorite, and Tampa Bay being a plus 130 home dog. Now, the public, they're all over Boston because their ace is on the mound, and they're laying that short chalk number. However, despite all this action that seems to be going in that direction, we see the Red Sox number dropped from being a minus 140 all the way down to being a minus 115. So what this means is very simple. It's called a sharp reverse line movement, and it's on the Rays getting the plus money. That plus money started at plus 130, now has dropped down to plus 105. Now, keep one thing in mind. Teams coming off a win, receiving 15 cents of steam or more, they're at almost 60% so far this season. The Rays have value in this game. They're a short contrarian divisional dog, and they have a line movement that's in their favor. Also, the Red Sox have COVID issues as well. They'll be without their star shortstop, Xander Bogaerts, due to positive tests. The Sharps also seem to be eyeing a lower scoring game here, too. We've seen the total drop from 8 to 7.5, with the smart money coming in on that number, the lower number they're looking at. So drop from 8 to 7.5. So between the Red Sox and the Tampa Rays, the pros went on the underdog, steamed that number down from being a plus 130 to being a plus 105. And of course, they're also on the under in this game as well. So just to review the 3 games for today, you got the Astros against the Mariners. In that game, the pros are on the Houston Astros. The Yankees against the Angels. The pros are on the Yankees. They lost 4 games in a row. They kind of think they're not going to lose this series. They're coming in with their big gun. Jarrett Cole's going to be pitching tonight. very high numbers as far as juice is concerned, but that's who they like. They like the Yankees over the Angels in this game. And finally, the Red Sox against the Tampa Rays. The Pros are on the underdog, the Tampa Rays, in this particular game. So that's the story as far as baseball is concerned. And like I said, starting tomorrow, we're still going to continue to tell you who the teams are, but we're not going to go into all this detail to explain to you how and why these different decisions have been how they come up. So we will continue on. We're not going to leave you out there in the cold with a month and a half to go, or actually a month to go in the season. Then you got the postseason coming up. So we'll stay with you. You stay with us. We'll continue to give you that information, as helpful as it may be to you. So we're going to take our second break, and when we come back, we're going to answer some questions that we've gotten from the emails, and we'll cover that. And then right after that, we'll go into talking about some college football as well. So let's take that break, and we'll be back in 1 minute. And here we go again. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo, coming to you live right here from the Mile High City, as they call it, Denver, Colorado. So we talked about the three games on tap for today as far as baseball is concerned. We'll review those teams once again before we go off the air. But I want to take a few minutes just to answer some questions that I got in emails. And once again, you can get in touch with us by sending an email to the sports wagering zone at gmail.com. So I got an interesting email from James in New York, and he basically is asking, do you know the formula or algorithms that are used in generating lines? Because they always seem to be dead on accurate. Well, there's definitely a reason for that, and I'll try to explain to you as best I can. First of all, how it all starts. Here's how it all starts, okay? You have two groups of people. You have the pros, the professional bettors, whatever you want to call them. Some people call them wise guys, sharps, whatever it is, okay? And then you have the sports books. So they all have methods of coming up with teams and numbers, and each one is as private as can be. If you could find out what it is, I just don't know how you could, because they're not going to let you know what it is. And basically all they're doing is they're coming up with the type of power ratings. They look at various parts of the game, and they allow a certain amount of pluses and minuses as to whether the quarterbacks, running backs, how the defense is played, how the offenses are playing. And each group of these two groups, they had their own method and their own ways of what they think it should be. Now, they're going to be very close to each other as far as what they think about, but there's always going to be something a little different. Just like when you go to a racetrack and you see some people will bet on horses because of the pace of the race. Some people will bet on it because they like the color of the horse or the color of the whatever, and yet it all seems to come together, and sometimes they do win. Well, here's what happens here. The first thing that happens is that the sports book puts out a line. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, they put out a line that says the Jets playing New England, Jets are a 3-point favorite. Okay. Now, what happens at this point in time is the pros take a look at that number because they have already come up with their own number. They may think the Jets giving 4 points is the way to go. Okay. So instead of being favored by 3, they think it should be 4. So that means that by going with that -3 number, they jump on it because it's lower than what they're expecting it to be. All right. I'm trying to explain it as best as I can. Trust me. Now, so here's what they do. They throw in their money on the -3 because the sports book sees the money coming in, and the first thing they do is they bump it up to 3.5. Now, some of the pros will say, okay, 3.5, I'll stay with it. They'll come out with more money. And if they do that, then the sports book moves it up to 4. Okay. They're going to keep going to a certain point where no more money is coming in from the pros. And that's where it stays. That's where you see it. If you haven't been following it, that's what you're seeing. So by following the numbers, and it takes a lot of work, you got to take that first number when it comes out, see what those first numbers are when they come in, and that will give you a general direction as to which way the pros are going. So that's kind of how it works. As far as what methods they use, the pros use a similar method to whatever the sports books are doing, but they do have some differences because they will come up sometimes, many times, with different numbers. And that's how it kind of works. And then it kind of seems like when everything goes back and forth, they're playing with each other in that direction. All of a sudden, the score comes out and say, wow, that's exactly what they wanted, right? Well, it's pretty close to what they thought it was going to be. And it's all done with their analytics. And of course, they've been doing it for over 30 years, some of these guys. So they really know what they're doing. And of course, now with all the modern technology with computers and things of that nature, it's a lot easier to come up with these various numbers. In the old days, it was a matter of using a paper and a pencil. That's why many people refer to the pros as sharps. Sharp comes from sharpening their pencils all the time. That's where that phrase comes from. So it kind of gives you an idea. The number comes out, the pros see the number. They either like the number or they don't. Okay, if they don't like the number, they lay off and they see what happens. Now, understand one other thing, especially when it comes to college and NFL games. The number comes out, let's just say early, right after midnight on Monday, Sunday night into Monday. The lines will come out and the pros will look at it, see what it is, and they'll kind of take it from there. Now, the first day, there's a limit on how much you could bet. So the first day could be only $1,000. And then that number progressively raises up and up and up until finally game time, where you can almost bet $1 million, $1.5 million if you want to, okay, or if you can. And that's how that line sometimes jumps at the very end. You'll see a closing line about 20 minutes before a game time of, say, the Jets being -3. Then all of a sudden, the game starts and you look at the number again, and now it's -5 or -6, because there's a huge amount of money came in at the tail end, because that's when they can bet the most money. They can't bet a lot of money in the beginning. So it's kind of a feel out. They see the line, they drop a few bucks here to kind of see what it is. Then they see how the sports books react. Then they come back and react to that reaction. Then the sports books react to that reaction. And that's kind of how it works. So anyway, I hope I was able to explain it. I know it's kind of going back and forth with stuff, but it's a very complicated issue. And the key is to try to watch that line movement. If you have the time to spend to catch that line when it first starts and you see it starting to move, you've got to get in there as soon as possible, because it starts going up or down, depending on how you feel about it. In other words, because like a line may open as -3, and then by the time the pros put all their money in, it goes up to being a 4-point favorite instead. Now they're out of the game. They feel 4 is too high. They won't go any higher. Meanwhile, you're in at 4. You may wind up losing at 4. They may wind up winning at 3. See, so it's very close. You got to really watch real closely if you want to really be totally successful if you're making any betting. So we'll follow that. We'll try to talk more about it once we get the football season started. We get all the things out of our way. We'll try to come a little closer to explaining what that's all about. In the meantime, let's get that final break out of the way. And of course, we come back, we're going to take a look at some tips on betting on college football that's coming up real soon as well. So just a reminder, you're in the sports wagering zone, and we will be back right after this message in 1 minute. And welcome back. Here we go again. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live right here from the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, talking about college football. Most people typically believe that bookmakers are the ones that are in the know. We try to explain that they use various different methods of coming up with their selections. That their lines are for specific reasons. Sure, they take a look at various teams. They weigh one item against another, their offense against the defenses, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. So many different things have to come into play, okay? And in turn, the lines are bet heavily by the pros, okay? They put an equal amount of time into getting ready for it as well, like we just explained before, okay? You would think that by following the lead of these two groups that most bettors should be able to really take advantage. So that's why we believe here that studying the results of games against the lines really does that as well. So here are some simple steps and systems and concepts that you can use in these opening weeks of the college season, okay? So that you'll have a good idea as to how things get started. So after studying the games from last week and this week, okay, and over the last 8 seasons, that's how far back some of these people go, okay, you come up with some betting concepts that might be of some help to you. So that's what we did. Look back 8 seasons, try to get some thoughts and ideas. The one thing is for sure, huge favorites. Any favorite, 37.5 points or more, they're almost automatic in the first couple of weeks, going as far back as 2013. They're 7-0 straight up and 7-0 against the spread. Huge favorites, 37.5 points or more. So when the opening week lines come to 40 points, get close to that, odds makers clearly see a big difference in talent between the two teams. Obviously, you're not going to give somebody 40 points if you didn't think they were worth it or not, okay? Also, the better teams were always playing at home. They're really quick. They want to get that good stuff going. All their fans are in there. It's the first game of the season. They want to really get a good start against their opponents because they want to get off on the right track as far as the season's concerned. So because of that, there have been some easy wins and point spreads and covers, okay? So with these games producing an average score of almost over 60 points per game, the average lines are 40, okay? You can see how huge favorites of 37 and a half or more have been doing very, very well. Also, favorites have been reliable at home and also in neutral site games in these first weeks as well, going back to 2013. It's almost 54% against the spread. Okay. Now, also, Power Five favorites, they've been more reliable than a group of five favorites. Because when a group of five teams have met in week 0 and week 1, or going as far back as 2013, the favorites are just at almost 42%. So, despite expanded previews of the group of five teams published by, a lot of the experts that are out there, this leaves more margin for error. As it has turned out recently, underdogs in these group of five matchups seem to take a lot of motivation more than so, okay? Now, favorites also in games between conference opponents have also done very well. They've been 12-7 straight up, 11-7 against the spread, which is 61%. And once again, goes as far back as 2013. Because the importance of conference games, even in these first couple of weeks of the season, are very, very important. Conference games typically bring out the best in focusing on how the team gets prepared. When you add that excitement of the opening season against a big rival, it's easy to see how the better team can be more successful. They've got more momentum going in their favor. So if you figure conference favorites have covered at 61% and all other favorites have gone at 50%, you have more than a 10% advantage in betting on a favorite in a conference game in the first couple of weeks. Once again, conference games this early are rare, but 5 Big Ten clashes and an ACC title game are on tap for the first 2 weekends. So those are things to take a look at. And understand something else. The odds makers, they're trying to get you to look at low total games with the early weeks of 48 or less. Totals of 48 or less in the under are at 70% since 2013. Remember, odds makers study these teams thoroughly throughout the off season. That's what they spend their time doing. They have these staffs that do this. It's not just one person that does it. It's just too much to do there. So they have staffs. They have different ways of getting all the information. They kind of put it all together and they decide which direction things should happen. When they determine that teams won't be very explosive offensively, they basically tell you by setting their opening totals at a low total. So considering that the average college total has been 56 to 57 over the last 8 or 9 years, okay, a total of 48 might seem appetizing for an overplay. But, it's proven to be profitable and a profitable strategy to avoid that temptation. Always look to go low and also expect low to come in. So hopefully some of these tips, some of these thoughts and ideas will be of some benefit to you as you're starting to put your things together for the upcoming college football season. We'll try to keep you on track with other thoughts and ideas. We'll give them to you, but as always, it's just information. We're giving you information. You take it. If you can use it, by all means do so. Maybe you can incorporate some of the information with whatever system you're using, because we always tell you, if you have a system and you like it and you're doing well with it, don't tamper with it, okay? Just maybe tweak it here, maybe tweak it there sometimes, but just kind of leave it alone. Don't fix it if it doesn't need to be fixed. So that's the story there. We'll be back again tomorrow But before we go, once again, the three baseball games we talked about today. Houston against Seattle, the pros are on Houston. Yankees against the Angels, the pros are on the Yankees. And the Red Sox against the Rays, the pros are on the underdog, the Rays, in that particular game. So once again, thanks for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow. This is Wednesday. Wednesday we kind of refer to as hump day. It's the middle of the week, okay? We'll be back again tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We're here every Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Saturdays and Sundays, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So once again, have a great, wonderful Wednesday. And of course, if you're going to bet anything today, especially if you're betting baseball, I wish you the best of luck. I hope the information we kind of partake and give to you, you kind of use it to your advantage to help you to become a better handicapper. So until tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm Chris Pardo. Thanks for listening. We'll be back again on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms. So until tomorrow, have a great Wednesday. Have a profitable Wednesday. I'll be talking to you tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody.